The business environment in lexicography refers to the set of external and internal economic factors that shape how lexicographic data are created, marketed, and sustained. At a very general level, these factors are the following. 1. The market structure. And the market structure includes traditional publishers and official institutions such as the Royal Spanish Academy. B. Technological companies such as Google that integrate lexicographic data into platforms. And finally, startups such as Orbogen, which offer more niche products and services. The second element is economic forces, and we must take into consideration economic forces because, for example, print dictionary sales are declining, and they are now irrelevant in many parts of the world and will be irrelevant in the rest of the world sooner or later. And finally, there is a competitive landscape as explained in a previous lesson. Dictionaries must compete with search engines, with translation tools, with educational platforms, and finally with generative AI chatbots. These factors influence the budgeting of the lexicographic project. And the budgeting is the process of establishing the business model by which lexicographers obtain funds for financing the project and make a profit. Because there is a very important dictum: no money, no dictionary, and this dictum is real. In terms of budgeting, Fuertes Olivera in 2025, pages 36-43, mentions three main types of lexicographic projects. The first one is the project funded by official institutions and, in some occasions, well-established companies and publishing houses such as Oxford University Press. These are responsible of academically driven projects, and these projects are lexicographic tools designed and compiled within the walls of well-acclaimed national and international institutions. These projects typically contribute to the preservation and promotion of a species community's cultural and linguistical heritage. They form a body of well-known historical, philological, and national dictionaries. Some well-known examples of academically driven projects are the Diccionario de la Lengua Española and the Oxford English Dictionary. And following Brewer, published in 2022, there are three main subtypes of academically driven projects. One of them is historical dictionaries. Historical dictionaries select, record, and comment on how words and expressions have been used during the course of a language past, thus informing about the development not only of language, but also of society and culture. The second type is the philological dictionary. And philological dictionaries study the language in written historical sources and inform on the history of words and expressions, the structures of language, their historical context, grammar, phonetics, syntax, and some cultural aspects. And finally, we have national dictionaries. National dictionaries document and describe the vocabulary and usage of a language within a language community. They play a crucial role in its standardization and establishment, and provide authoritative definitions, spellings, and pronunciations. In general, these lexicographic projects obtain their funds from government grants, private foundations, endowments, donations, and more recently, crowdfunding. In general, the budgeting of these projects is not subjected to market forces because they concern their brand value, which is trust and authority. Let's go now to the second type, the one identified by Fuertes Olivera as commercially driven projects. That is, lexicographic tools created and marketed for commercial purposes. And these projects are subjected to market forces, and this is the main characteristics, because they are developed with a strong focus on the market and consumer demand, which is the main responsible of the dictionary type created. These projects are typically funded by technological companies and publishing houses, and they emphasize practicality and real-world usage, have a user-friendly design, and they incorporate multimedia elements and tend to publish updates regularly. Their primary source of funding is no longer the revenue generated from the sales of dictionaries, but from subscriptions, advertising, sponsorship, partnership, and sales of data. This new situation has lexicographic implications. There, three of them are very relevant. 1. Lexicographers' main objectives should not be the dictionary as a whole. It must be its lexicographic data per se, especially data that can be customized, that is, tailored to the specific needs of a particular user type or individual. 2. Lexicographers have an incentive to focus on premium features or premium content. And third, data selection and presentation is usually more important than content. This means that they must catch the attention of their potential targets and be sure their screens are elegant and informative. The third type, identified by Fuertes Olivera in 2025, is the small-scale projects. These projects are reference works created basically by startups and part-time lexicographers that observe a niche market and go for it. These projects focus on specialized, narrowly defined segments of users who need very specific kinds of lexical resources. Some examples of niche projects are those connected with specialized terminology and industrial and professional reference tools. Their revenues typically depend on online sales of lexicographic data and subscriptions in the form of one database and many dictionaries, an example of which is the accounting dictionaries, as explained by Sandro Nilsson. Their revenue then depends on two main factors. One of them is that there is a niche market. For example, they can sell data on medical plans to drug companies. And secondly, they create dynamic and high-quality online services. And these services are better than products. And these services depend on factors such as these. One of them is using innovative technological features. For example, hyperlinks to figures describing physical objects. Another one is a commitment to offering 24-hour, 365-day service. Another one is offering subscriptions tailored to different potential markets. Another one is reserving adequate space for advertising. Another one is treating the database as a comprehensive collection of structured data in which dictionaries search for the data that tells users exactly what they want to know. And this is a quotation from Nielsen 2022, page 393. In sum, the business model must focus on obtaining revenue streams from A. Subscriptions, for example, premium dictionary apps. B. Licensing data, for example, selling dictionary APIs to companies. C. Ads. D. Custom lexicons for AI, voice assistants, and NLP applications. This new business model is very dependent on users' profiles and technology, which are the objectives of the following lessons. Thank you.